industry in itself. So I think that's just where I will say talent has always been there. It's impeccable. The people of Botswana have so much talent. Yeah.
It's just one of those platforms where we get to see what wasn't seen before.
Yes.
Probably it was put under a table or under a bushel or something, but right now it's time for us to see that come out, right?
Yeah, it's time for people to start falling in love with local creatives. So I view it as more of like educative, like you're saying, we're shining light. People are starting to see and appreciate it, saying, okay, you don't have to do too much research. You can start attending festivals like this, going to ceremonies to really now start connecting and seeing artists at this kind of level. Yes.
Definitely. Now, most artists use that platform to actually have it as a stepping stone or as a platform for them to actually get to where they are seen or their light is seen, like we're saying. It's just the launch of their talent, of their gift being set out into the world. But now let's talk about you, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you got here and who's Goth Rose. Where did you start? When did you discover who you are? And, you know, what measures did you put in place for us to actually know the name Goth Rose?
Oh, that's a very packed question, but I will pick some defining moments for myself. Right. When you grow up as a creative, sometimes you don't know that you have talent until you are humming in the house or at school and somebody says, hey, you know, you have a really nice voice. Have you thought about that? But I would say, looking currently where I am, I had a chance to discover and grow and spread my wings through volunteer work in people who create spaces for creatives to come in and collaborate. So I started off doing creative work at a place called Diamond Square. That's where I started exploring even just beyond the talents. I thought it was just me being a singer-songwriter, a poet, and then I realized that, okay, I can also just be behind the scenes and do events organizing and coordination. So it started from there, and the work just started with those partnerships, those collaborations, and also the creative community in itself. When you see other people being boldly expressive in their talent and their creativity, it also gives you motivation to say, okay, I think I also want to see where I can go with what I have and what I have to offer. Yes.
Absolutely. Now, I've been there at the Diamond Square. I've been to other Perfect Pitch. I think that's
Perfect Noise.
Perfect Noise, yes, absolutely. I've been there as well, and I've seen that it's a great platform for artists to come through, and we get to, you know, discover new talents, and we're not even using money most of the times to get there, right? Now, I want us to get into the challenges that we face, or that artists face as they grow up, or the challenges that you faced yourself. Did you have that war inside of your heart that says, but I'm performing for free and yet I have such a good voice? You know, what are those challenges that you had to deal with?
I think I will speak from a personal experience, right? In my path and in my journey, the things I had to encounter, first and foremost, that starts with you as a person having to work through the self-doubt and also the anxieties and also the challenges of I don't want to lie and say the creative industry is set up in a way where we can appreciate the monetary value in terms of the creativity that artists have, right? So that was also the number one aspect, because you spend money on outfits, you spend money on makeup, you spend money on food also, and transport. So those are one of the challenges that come with it. And then in terms of shifting from being a creative and being a creative entrepreneur, that is coming up with my own show, trying to build capacity within the creative industry by doing a show where artists can come and perform. So there was that challenge of also coming into the space. The economy aspect comes into it, where you have to do everything from pocket. But if you just stay fixated on the vision and constantly remind yourself why you're doing this, it goes on and on. But the challenges are unending. Every day, every show, every performance, there's something new that comes up.
Right. Now, speaking of you getting into now organizing an event, now you're getting into the promoter space, right? Yeah. To some extent there, you deem yourself a promoter and an artist at the same time. Now, researchers haven't been carried out around the world. Some say women face a hard time as compared to men, right? Maybe for people to get to like you, it takes a bit longer than if it was a gentleman, right? So are those some of the challenges that you have also come across? And, you know, did you at some point feel like giving up? And what did you do at that point?
The giving up part, yes. Even last month, I felt like giving up, right? But at first, I used to think to myself, oh, they're just challenges of the trade, right? I never wanted to think it in the context of gender specificity, right? But I just started realizing, like, interesting. When I do a deeper introspection and analysis of the playground in itself, it's like even in spaces where you think it's female dominated, the interesting thing is when you come in as a woman, I would say the challenge is there's already a set mold or certain roles they feel like, oh, since you're female, this is the only path you can go. This is the mold that you can come in. These are the roles that you can only appeal to. So you have to go an extra mile to earn your place and earn your respect and in some way have a point to prove, but not in a bad way. It's all about shifting perspective and saying, okay, for me, I took it as a mental exercise to be challenged in that way. It also helped me grow certain skills, adaptability to think on my feet and say, I like this. It means that let me chest out and say, hey, I am here and I have something to do. I have something to say, and I'm going to say it through my actions and through my implementations. And yeah, that's that. There are a lot of challenges. There is.
And definitely you do have something to give right there. Now, from some of those things that you mentioned there, I hear you saying that you had to, you know, chest out, chin up, you know, but what actually made you stand out or makes you stand out right now? Because it's a competitive sector, right? The art industry, there's so many, the art is very vast, right? There's so many talents and very new ones that we're discovering now, right? And as you keep on doing more of what you're doing, you get to discover more skills. Like you just said, you get to discover, I can actually be my own lawyer if I have to, right? But what makes you stand out as Goth Rose?
I would say my resilience and my love for creativity and seeing it just beyond me as the creative, but also acknowledging it in other people, because that's what first drove me to want to create a platform for other artists. So I would say the number one thing in terms of wanting to stand out is understanding your whys. You have to have a very specific and narrow vision that keeps you on track every time you're going on your journey. And you need to understand and study your sector, like do your research and not just stay fixated in your own bubble and world because you think you have a concept note. No, you have to broaden your view and learn from other people and benchmark, which eventually leads you to understand what is your USP, what's your unique selling point, and how can you package what you have after understanding people and what they gravitate towards. And your whys and your unique selling point makes it easier for you to narrow down the demographic that you are interested in, the feel of the event that you want to do, and what is it that you want to bring differently to the people, right? For example, I would say our unique selling point, not that unique, but it's like music and coffee. People, you know, tea from where we come from in our background. If somebody comes home and it's something that calms people down and they're able to have conversations. So we wanted to just go beyond just creating a space where people just come and have a good time and go. We wanted to also be a space where we're doing capacity building for artists to also collaborate, to also partnership. We're also combining other spectrums within the creative spectrum. We're combining combining with fashion, we're combining with fine arts, we're combining with just anything that comes from our creativity and our innovation hub. We're like, okay, let's put this and this and this and that together. And you need to package it in a way that people connect to it and understand and say, wait, I really want to be a part of that. Yeah.
Interesting, quite interesting, and very passionately said.
Yeah,
sounds, you know, where there is passion, so they say, where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, amen.
And now, because there's that passion that I see when you speak, I believe you're gonna go far, Goth Rose.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're most welcome.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned some key things there, the partnerships, right? Now, let's take a look at the National Arts Council. It has taken so much interest in our talents as young people, our talents as Botswana. You know, we go across ages, right? But how would you like or have as a recommendation for the National Arts Council to say these are some of the ways, some of the things that we can improve, or these are some of the ways that we can actually reach our talents or the people's talents better, I mean, according to you, or for young women like you?
I want to say this, it comes from a very good place, right? We are very the creative industry is so youth oriented, in as much as there are also artists that we respect that have come before us and have walked the path, right? I think just to add more to it is saying in policy development, right? And in the conversations that matter, the conversations that lay down the structures and systems in place, because there's no denying that Botswana has a very a palpable urban culture. Creativity has always been there. So the Arts Festival and also the council in itself, like I mentioned before, it's just a starting foundation. And hopefully from here, we start having conversations about things that govern the creative industry. And my recommendation is to say every step of the way, do not leave the people who are at the core of it. To say we have a creative industry. So when we're talking policy development, like this, for example, this is one way of saying doing research in depth and involving the movers and shakers, whether big or small, no name, big names, everybody has to be there when we're having the conversations that matter. And we take time to hear this and actually start things that we say we're implementing. Structure is something that is very important. I think systems of regulations is what I'm trying to drive at, and how important it is to involve the people that are actually participating in these systems.
Well said, Goth Rose. Sounds like you should be an advocate to someone who's in the creative sector. You're doing so well. So now, speaking of which, these partnerships, there's the National Youth Council, there are others, but as creatives, do we see corporates actually coming through, even for the upcoming artists? Do we see them being accommodative of the new talent that we see coming up?
I would say yes and no, and I will give my reasons why. Yes, in the aspect of the corporate world has its own rules, right, that governs it, and they usually, when they call out for talents, they have a specific field that they're looking for, right? So one might feel like I'm not given a chance, but maybe it is because you're not appealing to what that certain demographic is looking for, right? But I've seen youth that are being embraced into the corporate space. But when you have conversations with them, they said, I had to work hard to get where I am, to get recognition. Because there's also the concept of having a liking to certain brands that are big, and that is not wrong, because they've also worked hard to make that. So maybe the thing is to say, give upcoming artists a chance, because I do have a problem with this upcoming thing, but I understand where the concept is coming from in terms of your brand. How well known are you? How visible are you? When we put your name on the flyer, how are people going to respond and gravitate? Would they have just an instant thought of who you are. So I think it's also up to us as artists to work hard as much as we can to grow our brands, to understand marketing, to understand spaces that we're trying to go into. What do they require? What do they want? What kind of feel do they want, right? And then also those spaces in their going out to look for, since we're talking about corporate, they should also have systems in place that allows them to be able to assess new talent in a way they say, okay, I think this artist, we can give them a chance to see what they have for us.
Right. All right. Now, Goth Rose, what we see nowadays, we see a lot of things when we speak of artists, right? This being our last, my last question to you, you know, what's the advice when somebody goes into music, you know? And right now, we speak of so many programs that the government is giving us, and we see artists also being accommodated in that regard. So the question remains that once Komatseho gets this money and goes to record an album and, you know, it goes platinum, you know, are we still going to see this talent, or are we now going to be seeing her now becoming a drug dealer of some sort? You know, what is the perspective there coming from you also as a point of advice as we close our conversation?
My thing goes back to, you have to understand your vision and your why. So when you have an in-depth understanding of your whys, it's easier to strategize, and it's easier for you to narrow down, and it's easier to understand what aligns with you and what doesn't align with you. And just because you have talent and you have creativity, you also have to put in the work in terms of building certain skills that allows you. Public speaking, communication skills, social skills, marketing. You need to do research. You need to learn, because an industry has rules of its own. Creativity is not enough. And of course, I learned these things when I just shifted from being a creative to being a creative entrepreneur and having my own show. I started to learn that, oh, there's a lot to be done. So you have to have a system. You have to be disciplined. You have to be focused. You have to be willing to learn just beyond just your creativity, but also capacity building is very, very important for your success. Yeah.
Right. Goth Rose, thank you so much for making time to be with us this afternoon. We're elated. We're happy to have seen you. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for having me.
Right. Now, that was Goth Rose, and of course, we're speaking the challenges that are faced by artists here in Botswana, and you know what can be done here and there. Of course, we did hear some advice and some wisdom coming from Goth Rose.
There's a lot of molding and guidance that is given to the girl child. They're taught how to dress, how to sit, how to talk. But nothing of that effort comes for boys. Where you find anything that you have to learn, you only learn from other boys. I never had a conversation with my father about sex until I say to him, I'm getting married. And he said to me, how are you getting married? You're not even circumcised. And I said, no, I circumcised. Why didn't you tell me when you were going to circumcise? You're only talking to me now. And that's when we are having this conversation. And this is a present father. And with our situation with absent fathers, who molds the child? From an early age, as a child, I know this one is going to cause debate, but we need to talk about it.